Anyway, we left off here with this prophets coming down to Antioch, and the famine that was over the whole world and so on, and Herod the king then in the next chapter killing James the brother of John, but never going into what the famine relief mission was. And finally in chapter 13, the prophets and teachers of the church in Antioch, because we're getting to Antioch all the time here, aren't we? We are getting to Antioch, and Antioch is the place where the Pauline community is really operating, and he lists the people in the community here. The prophets and teachers. Now, I don't even know what it means to be prophets and teachers at this time. I mean, how are these people prophets? What do they do that makes them a prophet? I mean, in the Old Testament, prophet is a noble name for someone who writes great literature and has visionary experience of an incredibly impressive but to call, members of the congregation in Garden Grove, for instance, prophets and teachers, which is basically what we're dealing with in Antioch, Garden Grove East, Crystal Chapel East, or something like Crystal Cathedral East, or whatever. I mean, not even on that scale. I think is a rather loose use of the term prophet, obviously, but it is being thrown around in this period. And I think it has some meaning, obviously, but I'm not sure how you want to interpret that. Again, I'm not going to make a huge deal of it. I just call it to your attention. But among them, you see, and we did this before, were these odd people. And one of them was this Manaen. And we mentioned him last time, and I don't know anyone called in any other context Manaen, except later on, perhaps in history of the time, several centuries later, there is a person called Mani, who starts a religion in the tradition of Paul, called Manichaeism, in Iraq and Persia. So maybe, this name may have percolated down, I don't know, or it may have been a real name. But Manaen, it looks suspiciously like a garbling of Ananias. You see, Ananias, if you look at the spelling here in English, Ananias should have been there, you see. You say, what do you mean garbling? Well, garbling occurs in oral tradition quite a lot, particularly as you move from one language as we've seen the other. You say, well, why do you think that? Oh, I don't necessarily think it, I just miss him. I miss Ananias. Where is he? We know Ananias was involved with someone like Paul in the conversion of Queen Helen that we already discussed in Adiabene. Remember, we discussed Adiabene. That's all in Josephus, this area east of Edessa. And her name was Helen, and she was involved in famine relief. There's a lot of overlap of themes going on at this point in the book of Acts. So we would, Ananias is so prominent in the Agabus correspondence, in the Josephus material about Queen Helen and her son's conversion, and the problem of circumcision, and the whole Ethiopian queen's eunuch overlap material, and Agabus the prophet, and Agabus, her possible husband, Agabus coming from the Eusebius legend of the conversion of the Edessenes. And these transferals from different languages, Semitic languages, into Persian languages, into Greek languages, and so on. So it's something like this Manaen and Ananias. Frankly, all you have to do is put an A instead of the M, and you're really into Ananias. And Greek block letters, a lot of them look very much alike. I think that would be an easy thing to happen. Like, for instance, in the scripture, we have Alphaeus. And we remember or are familiar with who Alphaeus is. James, the son of Alphaeus, as one of the apostles, according to at least two of the synoptics. Maybe all three, have to look. I think certainly Matthew and Mark. And then you have another name later on, Cleophas. And you say, well, what's the relationship? Frankly, I think one just garbles the other, because we do know that Cleophas had a son. Cleophas and Mary had 4 children: James, Simon, Jude, and Joses, according to the Gospel of John. And what's Cleophas or Clopas in the Gospel of John? It's probably Alphaeus in other renderings. The movement from a kappa to an alpha in Greek. Very similar look, even in English. K and A are, you know, I just make this A like this, you know, and fail to get the thing right, I'm into a K. It's that simple to have a confusion of that kind. That doesn't mean it happened, I'm just saying. You follow what I'm trying to say? So, I mean, I know an Ananias, and I miss it, but I don't know a Manaen. Say, so what? Here's a new character. Okay. What happens to him? Where's he go? What's he ever do? And what do you mean the foster brother of Herod the Tetrarch? That's extremely important, isn't it? Really important. Foster brother means someone who's like brought up with him, a brother basically. Herod the Tetrarch was the person who did what? Killed John the Baptist. A person close to the person who killed John the Baptist in the family community at Antioch? That really is interesting to me. I mean, don't you think that's interesting? That would jump right out of the page at me as something, wow. And why is it there? And what's the deal? And, you know, I always feel that because of Paul saying that his kinsman is called Little Herod in Romans, but other actions he seems to have, like he's protected by Herodians later on. Here he goes and stays in the palace of Agrippa I, Agrippa II, and Bernice and Drusilla and so on talk to him familiarly, almost sympathetically, seem to save him from harm. All kinds of other things that look to me of a Herodian type. And there is one Saul in the genealogies of the Herodian monarchy at this time, which is not a common name in this period. And this Saulus or Saul or Paul, whatever you want to call him, does appear as a kind of foster brother of some of these important Herodians that we would call Herodian, Herod the Tetrarch. Here's in this James book, the genealogies from Herod. And if you see here, I'll hold it up here, here's Saulus here. And